I would like to draw your attention also to the ages of the people sitting here, because there is one generation difference between, let's say, the age of the members of the advisory council and those who have been selected by the president of Skolkovo Foundation, Viktor Vekselberg, who was looking around the whole world to hire people who got their degree from INSEAD in Fontainebleau in France, for example, or from Harvard, and to do the management. Yeah? So we have a very, very young management, which in some way is a little unusual also for a Russian Federation. It's by itself already a revolution. And so it's my pleasure to introduce now Sergei Kurilov, who is the CEO of the Technopark Skolkovo, and will introduce you to the Technopark Skolkovo.
Thank you. First of all, thank you very much for coming here. It's always the challenge to talk after Zhares Ivanovich, because he has explained to you everything very clearly. Still, I'm going to tell you a few words about the Technopark project. It's pretty much ambitious one. First of all, it's one of the core elements of the whole Skolkovo project, and we're going to develop a very large physical infrastructure in the frame of Skolkovo. It's over than 150,000 square meters of office space, labs, and special social centers and points. And over the 50,000 square meters of residential areas as well. That will allow our people, our residents, to feel comfortable and conduct fruitful research and development activity in the frame of Skolkovo. But you know what is the remarkable about the Technopark is that we would like it to become a truly international one. A truly international project. Zhares Ivanovich mentioned about the hard times, about the cooperation of German and Russian science in the recent 20 years. I would like, and I'm happy to see my partners here from Berlin-Buch and Adlershof, and I'm really interested, I'm really willing to build up a tight cooperation between the Technopark project and Adlershof and Berlin-Buch to boost our international movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next part of the program of this hour is signing contracts of cooperation. Now, we're going to have two types of contracts of cooperation, one between Technische University and Skolkovo Foundation. And Professor Steinbach will introduce you briefly to the contents of that contract. And then we're coming to two different types of contract which are going to be signed by Technopark Skolkovo and Vista Adlershof, represented by its CEO Hardy Schmitz, and Berlin BBB Management in Berlin-Buch, represented by the managing director of BBB Dr. Scheller.
Yes, very briefly. I think it has become almost obvious to you why we are so much interested in signing this kind of cooperation treaty when you have heard the 5 core areas the activities are focused on. 4 out of these 5 are a perfect match to the structure of our university, focusing on energy, on questions of aviation industry and so forth. The second thing is, and some of you may know that we have taken quite some effort in the recent years to enhance our entrepreneurial activities. And this has been acknowledged last year as we have been selected as one of the 3 universities of the Federal Republic of Germany which is allowed to have the title of a so-called Gründeruniversität, University of Founders. So the activity of our Center of Entrepreneurship, we think, is also a strategic fit to the setup of the Technopark, which has just been outlined to us. So what we are prepared to do is to help our Russian colleagues to avoid the mistakes we made previously, so that you can have a shorter wait to that story of success, to have our colleagues from science available to come up with joint programs, because I think one thing that has also become very transparent to all of us, there's almost no challenge, scientific challenge left, which today can be solved by a single person. It's a question of having a crucial group, a minimum number of scientists together from different areas in an interdisciplinary setup. And this can usually be easier achieved by cooperating internationally than locally. And so we regard this kind of a treaty as a first step, which we hope that it will take off pretty fast and that we will have joint stories of success in the future.
The cooperation we are going to sign with Skolkovo Technopark is a logical piece for what we as technology park managers in Adlershof try to achieve, and there are many parallel lines we have together. First, the amount of volume of buildings you are going to create is about the amount of buildings we've been creating for the last 20 years. There's a lot of experience here, and we're excited to learn from you when you can build such a fantastic project from scratch. So we have agreed to work on these lines. The second is the technologies, and at least in 3 of the 5 areas, I think the entrepreneurs and the scientists in Adlershof have something to offer, and we see how we can structure this in the next years. The third one is internationalization. Skolkovo, as I gather, is being built internationally from the start. Adlershof is becoming international step by step, what the companies are concerned. Of course, science is always very international. But I think to learn from your stance at this and to make contributions in terms of what are really the right steps for companies on their way to internationalization and to really designing international presence. And the fourth point is that actually in all of Berlin and in Adlershof as well, we have a lot of people who speak Russian, have lived in Russia, and somehow are looking for ways to intensify and re-intensify those relations. So this is the point where it leaves the area of technocrats and comes to the hearts. And I hope during the last 2 days that came across as well, and I think this will be a source of power for the cooperation as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Adlershof and Berlin-Buch are a little like yin and yang, yeah? Both together are Skolkovo, are the partners of Skolkovo, yeah? And that is also why my colleague Detlef Ganten, the previous General Director of Charité, now presently Director of Charité Foundation, is member of the Scientific Advisory Committee, and he enabled that we got Buch on the boat because he was a person coming in 1992 to Berlin and rebuilding Berlin-Buch completely. The clinical, the hospitals, the research centers, the Max Delbrück Center, and is a founding father of many of these companies there. Dr. Scheller, please.
Personally, I received an excellent education, excellent training 25 years ago in Moscow at the All Unions, All Unions Research Institute for Cardiovascular Diseases. I should translate from Russian to English because it is so present in my mind. The reason why I'm Berlin-Buch is that I received the study in Moscow, because during that time the academies of science in Moscow and in Berlin had close collaborations, and we will proceed with these collaborations. Our Science and Biotech Park has 20 years of experience and international reputation in fostering excellent clinical research. I think Berlin-Buch, we in Berlin-Buch, we understand how to bring different research institutions, universities, non-university organizations, private biotech and medtech companies together to form a dynamic scientific and biotech campus. I think it also applies to Adlershof. We have specific expertise in guiding scientific institutions through the transformation, through the transition of different social systems. We are able to share detailed knowledge in running an effective one-stop agency for development and managing such a campus as Berlin-Buch is. I guess that from this collaboration we hope to improve and to get access for our biotech companies to the Russian markets. It's very important to build up networks, to develop business contracts between the companies of both countries, to attract personnel, and to initiate joint research projects. And I'm sure that with this last point, we will already start at the end of spring with certain minutes, with certain projects. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Scheller. I think his presentation was a clear proof of evidence which treasure we do have in Berlin, that approximately 50% of our young scientists speak Russian. A treasure which will last for one generation because they learned Russian in East Berlin in their schools. Around, judging from the population, 40%, let's say. Let's say it's 40%, yeah? And many of them got their education in Russia, got their PhD degree in Moscow or in Petersburg, and that is a treasure we should value, yeah? It's a treasure of intercultural relationship, a treasure of knowing people, knowing mentalities, and knowing the language. And that is what we try to use now for our cooperation with Skolkovo. We are the natural cooperation partners of Skolkovo Foundation.